Nora Reed gazed out the window of the shuttle as it approached the sprawling campus of the Galactic Unity Academy on the planet Xylar. The architecture was a blend of numerous cultures, each building showcasing the artistic and structural ideologies of its creators. She adjusted the translator device snugly fit behind her ear, a necessary tool to navigate the multitude of languages spoken here. "First time at Giwa?" asked a voice beside her. Turning, Nora saw a curious blue-skinned figure, his eyes wide and friendly. "Yes," Nora replied, mustering a smile. "It's quite different from Earth." "I'm Threx," he said, extending a hand that had 2 extra fingers. "From Saborian star system. And you are?" "Nora Reed from Earth," she said, shaking his hand. "You're the human. I read about your species in my Galactic Cultures class. Very fascinating." Threx beamed, nearly bouncing in his seat. "What brings you here?" "My mom's a diplomat. She thought it would be good for me to learn about other cultures firsthand," Nora explained, her eyes briefly scanning the cabin for other potential eavesdroppers. "Smart," Threx nodded. "This place will turn your brain to mush with knowledge. You'll love it." The shuttle landed smoothly, and as the students disembarked, Nora felt a cocktail of excitement and nervousness. The campus was buzzing with students of various shapes and sizes, some floating, others walking or slithering, each with their unique way of moving. As they walked toward the registration hall, Nora asked, "Is it always this crowded?" "Only at the start and end of terms. Everyone's either arriving or leaving," Threx explained. "You'll get used to it. Let's get you registered." The registration hall was even more chaotic. Lines snaked in every direction. Students chattered in a cacophony of alien languages, creating a symphony of galactic diversity. At the desk, a creature with no visible eyes and a radiant purple hue tapped at a holographic display. "Name?" It buzzed mechanically. "Nora Reed," she answered. The creature paused, its body pulsating lightly. "Ah, the human. There's been quite the anticipation about your arrival," it said. "Here's your schedule and a map of the academy. Your first class is Galactic History 101 in Building ZA3. Don't worry, it's tough to get lost here. The map will guide you." "Thank you," Nora replied, taking the offered materials. As they stepped out of the hall, Nora looked at her schedule, feeling overwhelmed. Threx noticed her apprehension and chuckled. "You'll be fine," he assured her. "What's your first class?" "Galactic History 101, she said. "Perfect. That's my next class too. I'll take you there," Threx offered, leading the way. As they walked, he pointed out various landmarks and facilities, filling Nora's mind with information. Reaching the building, Nora took a deep breath, clutching her bag tighter. "Ready for your first lesson in becoming a galactic citizen?" Threx joked, noticing her tense expression. "As I'll ever be," Nora replied, managing a smile. Stepping into the classroom, Nora felt every eye on her, a quiet murmur filling the room. She was indeed an anomaly here, but Threx leaned over and whispered, "You have the best opportunity to change what they think about humans. Show them what we're really about." Nora nodded, her nerves steadied by Threx's encouraging words. As she took her seat, she realized this was just the beginning of what would be the most transformative period of her life. As Nora settled into her seat, the classroom hummed with a low murmur of conversations, some through clicks and whistles, others through low growls and sophisticated gestures. She unpacked her notebook and pen, a quaint method of note-taking perhaps, but one that felt grounding amid the flurry of alien technology. "Is that how humans record information?" A voice piped up from the seat behind her. Turning, Nora saw a small, cat-like creature with shimmering fur that seemed to ripple with color. Its eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Yes, it's old school, I guess. I like writing things down. It helps me remember," Nora replied, offering a smile. The creature nodded, its ears flickering. "I'm Mivix, from Vela Prime. We use memory crystals, very efficient. Maybe I can show you sometime," Mivix suggested, holding up a small, glowing crystal. "I'd like that," Nora said, intrigued by the technology. Just then, the professor, a tall, thin being with translucent skin and a robe that floated around its form, entered the room. The chatter died down as it approached the lectern. "Welcome, young scholars, to Galactic History 101. I am Professor Glim," the figure spoke, its voice echoing slightly around the room. "Today, we begin by understanding the vast cultures that make up our galaxy. But first, let's get to know each other. Please, introduce yourselves and share one interesting fact about your culture." One by one, students stood to speak. Some spoke of worlds where night never fell, others of societies built underwater or in the skies. When it was Nora's turn, she stood, feeling a knot in her stomach. I'm Nora Reed, from Earth. A fact about humans. Well, we're known for our diverse cultures. We have hundreds of languages, and each culture celebrates its unique traditions and history, she explained, hoping her brief overview would suffice. Fascinating diversity indeed, Professor Glim noted. A trait that is both powerful and challenging, I presume. The class nodded, and Nora sat down, feeling the weight of her words. As the lecture began, covering the basic structures of galactic governance, Nora found herself fascinated but overwhelmed by the complexity of alien societies compared to human governance. After class, as students filed out, Threx and Mivix flanked Nora. That went well, Threx commented. It's not easy being the center of attention. It's a little intimidating, Nora admitted. But it's also amazing to learn so much about the universe. It's not something you can fully understand just from books or hollows. True, Mivix chimed in. And speaking of learning, how about we show you the memory gardens? It's a peaceful place, perfect for studying or unwinding. The trio made their way to the memory gardens, a serene spot on campus where students could relax and study among bioluminescent plants and soft flowing waters. As they walked, Nora felt her earlier anxiety melt away, replaced by a burgeoning sense of adventure. So, Nora, Mivix started as they sat down on a glowing bench, what's something you hope to accomplish while you're here? Nora thought for a moment, then answered, I want to bridge the gap between humans and the rest of the galaxy. I want us to be seen as equals, as partners in shaping the future. That's a noble goal, Threx said, nodding approvingly. And you've already made a good start. As the Zalarian sun began to set, casting a golden light over the gardens, Nora felt a renewed confidence. She might be far from home, but here, in this moment, she was exactly where she needed to be. As the weeks progressed, Nora found herself increasingly comfortable navigating the sprawling campus and its diverse inhabitants. It was during a group project for her xenobiology class that she stumbled upon something extraordinary. The task was simple: catalog the native flora in the lesser explored eastern section of the campus, a segment overrun with lush wild vegetation that seemed to pulse with life. Nora and her group, including Threx and Mivix, trekked through the dense underbrush, their tools scanning and recording data. The air was thick with the musky scent of alien pollen. As Nora pushed a low-hanging vine aside, her scanner beeped frantically, signaling something anomalous. What's that? Mivix asked, peering over her shoulder at the readings. It's not registering as any known plant species. It might be something undeclared, Nora replied, her curiosity piqued. Digging through the undergrowth, they uncovered a smooth, metallic surface. Nora brushed off the soil, revealing intricate carvings that glowed faintly under her touch. This looks ancient, Threx observed, examining the glyphs. These symbols aren't familiar to any current galactic languages. Realizing the potential significance of their find, the group decided to report it to Professor Glim, who was an expert in ancient civilizations. The professor's eyes widened with intrigue as they showed him the relic. This is indeed a rare find. These markings suggest it could be from the pre-Unity era, possibly a relic of the old empire that predates our current alliance, Professor Glim explained, his voice trembling slightly with excitement. Could this help us understand more about those times? Nora asked, sensing the importance of their discovery. Absolutely, the professor affirmed. Such relics sometimes contain data, historical records, maps, maybe even communication logs. We must take it to the Xenohistory department for further analysis. With the relic transported to a secure lab, Nora and her friends were granted special permission to observe the analysis. The lab was a high-tech facility, lined with equipment that buzzed and whirred as it examined the artifact. As the alien technicians worked, one of the devices suddenly projected a holographic display, showing a star map with sectors that didn't align with any current galactic charts. This could be a map to other yet undiscovered parts of the galaxy, or perhaps it's a record of the old empire's reach, one technician theorized. The room buzzed with excitement and speculation. Nora, though, was captivated by the potential for unity that such a discovery could represent. This relic could provide insights not just into the past, but could pave the way for new alliances and deeper understanding between the myriad cultures of the galaxy. I think we've just scratched the surface of something much bigger, Nora said to her friends as they left the lab. This relic isn't just about history. It's about our future. That night, as Nora lay in her dorm room, she couldn't help but feel that their discovery was the beginning of something transformative. The thought excited and scared her in equal measure. But she knew one thing for certain. She was no longer just a student. She was now part of a journey that could change the understanding of the galaxy itself. The discovery of the relic placed Nora and her friends at the center of growing intrigue. As word spread, the atmosphere around them shifted subtly. Whispers followed them in the hallways, and eyes lingered a little too long. During a particularly quiet evening in the study hall, Nora was approached by a hooded figure. The stranger's voice was soft, but carried a sharp edge. "You should be careful with what you've found," he warned, glancing around cautiously before slipping a data chip into her hand. "Not everyone wants that information shared." Nora pocketed the chip, her heart racing. She waited until she was alone in her room to examine it. The chip contained encrypted files and a cryptic message. The past should sometimes stay buried. Confused and increasingly worried, Nora decided it was time for a strategic discussion with her friends. They met at their usual spot in the memory gardens, under the pretense of a casual study session. "We need to figure out what's going on," Nora began, sharing the details of her encounter. "Someone clearly wants to stop us from digging deeper into the relic's secrets." Threx looked thoughtful. "We knew this wouldn't be simple, but now it seems we're up against more than just academic competition. This could be dangerous." Mivix flicked her tail anxiously. "What if we talk to Professor Glim? He might know more about the political implications of our discovery." Deciding it was their best option, the group went to seek advice from the professor. Professor Glim listened intently, his expression growing increasingly grave. "This relic could be a key to understanding the foundational structures of the old empire. It's not just about history. It could inform current political landscapes and power distributions," he explained. "You're right to be cautious. There are entities that would prefer such information remain lost." The professor arranged for them to access a secure research facility equipped with advanced decryption and analysis tools. Under his supervision, Nora and her friends began to work through the data, uncovering fragments of communications between ancient political figures and maps of resource distributions across the galaxy. As they delved deeper, the implications of their findings became clear. This wasn't just history. It was a blueprint of forgotten alliances and conflicts that could explain some of the galaxy's current tensions. Just as they were making significant progress, an alarm blared through the facility. They were under attack. A group of masked individuals had breached the security, demanding the relic and all related research. Reacting quickly, Threx and Mivix created a diversion, allowing Nora to escape with the most critical data. As she ran, clutching the precious chip, she realized that their academic project had spiraled into a fight not just for knowledge, but for power. They managed to evade the attackers, hiding in the labyrinthine lower levels of the academy. Panting and scared, Nora looked at her friends. "We're in this together now," she said, a determined look in her eyes. "Let's finish what we started." Together, they made a pact to protect the relic's secrets and use them responsibly. But first, they needed to understand exactly what they were dealing with, and who they were up against. In the wake of the attack, the reality of their situation settled heavily on Nora and her friends. They were no longer mere students caught in a historical puzzle. They were now unwittingly key players in a larger political game that spanned the galaxy. Understanding the gravity of their discovery, they decided to deepen their alliance. Back in the safety of their makeshift headquarters in an abandoned section of the academy, they gathered around the old maps and decrypted messages, piecing together a clearer picture of ancient political landscapes. "We need more allies," Nora stated, looking around at the anxious faces of her friends. "We can't do this alone. We need people who know how to navigate these treacherous political waters." Threx nodded in agreement. "I know a few upperclassmen from the Diplomatic Corps program. They could provide us with insight into the current political dynamics and perhaps even offer some protection." Mivix added, "And I can reach out to the Tech Guild. They're good with security systems and might help us safeguard our data." With their roles defined, they each set out to recruit more allies. Nora focused on synthesizing the information they had, while Threx and Mivix worked their contacts. Within days, their small group had grown, including 2 members from the Diplomatic Corps and 3 tech-savvy students from the Guild. The new members were briefed and quickly brought up to speed. Ralt, a sharp-minded Zeltronian from the Diplomatic Corps, proposed a strategy meeting to assess their position. We need to understand who might benefit from suppressing this information and who might support its release, he suggested during their first collective meeting. Arya, a tech genius from the Guild, set up secure communication channels for the group. We'll need to be careful about information leaks. Whoever tried to steal the relic knows about us, and they might still be monitoring, she warned. As they worked through the night, their collaboration revealed not just hidden alliances, but also ancient betrayals that mirrored the current divides within the galactic unity. The patterns were undeniable and unsettling. Look at this, Nora said, pointing at a decrypted message. This indicates that some of the current High Council members' ancestors were involved in a secret pact that led to the fall of a major system. This could explain some of the tensions at the last Council summit. The implications were explosive. Revealing this could shift power balances, or worse, ignite conflicts. The team was aware of the delicate line they were walking. Should we go public with this? Mivix asked the group, her voice tense. There's a right time and a right way to do this, Ralt responded cautiously. First, let's secure more evidence and maybe find a way to present it that calls for reform rather than inciting chaos. Their discussions were interrupted by a sudden alert on their screens. A message, encrypted and urgent, flashed before them. It was from Professor Glim, urging them to meet him at dawn. He had made a breakthrough that could change everything, but insisted on speaking in person, fearing their communication might be compromised. As dawn broke over the academy, the group met with the professor at the edge of the memory gardens. The air was crisp, and the first light of morning gave a surreal calmness to their clandestine gathering. What you've found, Professor Glim started, his eyes scanning the group, is more than history. It's a beacon for change, but it's also dangerous. I've secured a meeting with a few allies in the council. They are reformers who might help us use this information wisely. Their mission was clear. They needed to prepare a case that was irrefutable and present it in a way that would foster unity and reform, not division. This was their chance to influence the future of the galaxy, and they were determined to see it through. The weight of their responsibility was heavy, but together, they felt ready to face whatever came next. The tension in the air was palpable as Nora and her allies prepared to defend their findings. The stakes had never been higher, and the group was acutely aware that their actions could either bridge or burn the fragile ties within the galactic unity. Ralt and the Diplomatic Corps students had arranged for their findings to be presented to a select group of reform-minded council members in a secure location within the academy, but the risk of interception was high. On the morning of the presentation, Nora felt a mix of determination and anxiety. She reviewed their data one last time, ensuring every piece of evidence was irrefutable. Arya and the Tech Guild had set up advanced encryption on their presentation, safeguarding it against any attempts to sabotage their efforts. As they made their way to the meeting, a sudden alert from Arya halted them. "We have a problem," she said, pulling up a security feed on her device. The video showed a group of masked figures blocking their planned route, clearly waiting to intercept them. "We need to reroute," Threx suggested quickly, pulling up a map of the Academy's maintenance tunnels. "These tunnels aren't monitored as closely. We can bypass them." Navigating the dimly lit tunnels, the group stayed close, the silence punctuated only by the distant hum of the Academy's infrastructure. As they neared their exit, the sound of footsteps echoed behind them, too heavy and synchronized to be anything but trouble. "We're not alone," Mivix whispered, her ears twitching nervously. The group quickened their pace, emerging into a utility room just moments before their pursuers reached the tunnel entrance. Using a maintenance door, they slipped into the building where the meeting was to be held, barely ahead of their followers. Inside, they found their council allies waiting, expressions tense with the understanding of the risks involved. Without wasting a moment, Nora began the presentation. She detailed their discovery of the relic, the ancient betrayals, and the secret pacts that had shaped the current political landscape. The evidence was compelling, showing clear lines of influence that persisted into the current council's decisions. As they presented the last of their evidence, the room shook with the impact of an explosion nearby. Their pursuers had not given up. Security alarms blared, and the building went into lockdown. "This is a direct attack on the council's authority," one of the reformist council members declared, his voice steady despite the chaos. "We must protect these findings. They are not just historical artifacts. They represent a path to true unity." With the council members' support, the group secured a lockdown protocol in the room, shielding them from the attackers. Outside, security forces clashed with the intruders, a battle of ideologies fought in the corridors of knowledge. As the conflict raged, Nora and her team worked with the council members to draft a resolution to bring the findings to the full council, aiming to initiate reforms based on their discoveries. The atmosphere was one of frantic urgency, knowing that the outcome of the battle outside would significantly impact their efforts to advocate for change. After hours of standoff, the Academy's security forces subdued the intruders. The immediate threat was over, but the impact of the day's events resonated deeply with everyone involved. "We've crossed a point of no return," Nora said to her group as they debriefed after the meeting. "We're part of this now, for better or worse." Together, they prepared for the next steps, knowing that their journey was far from over. The battle for knowledge had been won, but the war for reform and unity was just beginning. As they left the meeting room, the weight of their responsibility was matched only by their resolve to see their mission through to the end. In the aftermath of the tumultuous battle for their findings, Nora and her group felt a renewed sense of purpose. With the support of the reformist council members and their newfound allies, they moved swiftly to leverage the momentum from their successful defense. The council agreed to a special session to hear their case, a testament to the urgency and gravity of their discoveries. The days leading up to the council session were intense. Nora and her team worked tirelessly, refining their presentation and strategizing on how to best convey the implications of their findings to a diverse audience. Each member brought their unique perspective, helping to shape a message that would resonate across cultural and political divides. On the day of the council session, the Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of different species, each with their own vested interests and historical grievances. The air was thick with anticipation and the weight of history. Nora stepped up to the podium, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "Honorable members of the council, we stand before you not just as representatives of our individual species, but as advocates for the unity this council was founded upon," she began, her words echoing in the vast chamber. She proceeded to unveil the secrets of the relic, detailing the ancient alliances and betrayals that mirrored the current fractures within the galactic unity. With each piece of evidence, she tied historical events to present-day issues, illustrating how understanding their shared past could guide them toward a more cohesive future. As Nora presented, the reactions ranged from skeptical to intrigued. Some representatives whispered among themselves, others nodded thoughtfully. The atmosphere was electric, charged with the potential for change. When the presentation concluded, a spirited debate ensued. Representatives took turns at the podium, voicing their concerns and aspirations. The discourse was passionate but respectful, a sign of the council's commitment to dialogue over conflict. Throughout the debate, Nora and her friends watched anxiously, responding to questions and clarifying points when needed. Their efforts were bolstered by the testimonies of the reformist council members, who advocated for the importance of transparency and reconciliation. As the debate drew to a close, the president of the council, a venerable figure from a species known for their wisdom and fairness, took the floor. "Today we've been presented with a rare opportunity to learn from our past and build a stronger, more united future," he declared. "Let us vote not just for ourselves, but for the generations to come." The vote was cast, and the resolution to adopt the findings and initiate reforms based on historical truths was overwhelmingly approved. The chamber erupted in applause, a sound that carried the relief and hope of many hearts. After the session, Nora and her team gathered outside the chamber, their faces weary but smiles broad. "We did it," Nora said, her eyes bright with tears of joy. "We really did it." Threx put an arm around her shoulder. "You did it, Nora. You showed us all how our differences could bring us together instead of tearing us apart." As the news of the council's decision spread across the galaxy, it sparked a wave of optimism. Systems plagued by long-standing disputes sought new grounds for negotiation, and species once isolated expressed interest in deeper collaboration. Nora and her friends returned to their academic lives, now celebrated not just for their scholarly achievements, but for their role in shaping galactic history. The Academy became a hub for those seeking to understand the complex tapestry of galactic unity, with Nora often invited to speak on the power of diversity and the strength found in unity. As the semester drew to a close, Nora looked out over the campus, her thoughts drifting to the future. She knew the path ahead would be challenging, but she also knew that they had already changed the course of history. With courage and cooperation, they had turned a relic of the past into a beacon for the future. The impact of the Council's decision rippled through the Academy and beyond, turning the Galactic Unity Academy into a symbol of interstellar cooperation and understanding. As the semester drew to a close, Nora found herself reflecting on the whirlwind of events that had transformed her from a curious student into a pivotal figure in galactic politics. On the last day of classes, Nora walked through the campus, the familiar paths now imbued with a sense of nostalgia and accomplishment. She passed the memory gardens where it all began, and paused to touch the luminescent leaves of a Zalarian fern, remembering the day they found the relic. As she made her way to the auditorium for the closing ceremony, Nora felt a mix of excitement and sadness. The ceremony was not just a farewell to the semester, but also a celebration of the changes that had begun to take shape. The auditorium was packed with students, faculty, and several dignitaries from various parts of the galaxy. As Nora took her seat on stage, she saw faces both familiar and new, all united by the shared experience of the past few months. The principal of the academy, a wise old Thessalian with a gentle demeanor, opened the ceremony with a speech about the power of knowledge and the importance of seeking understanding beyond one's own perspective. "This semester has shown us that the future is not something we enter," he said, "but something we create." When it was Nora's turn to speak, she rose, her heart full. "This semester, we embarked on an unexpected journey," she began, her voice clear and confident. "We discovered truths that challenged us, frightened us, and ultimately united us. We've learned that our differences are not just obstacles, but opportunities. Opportunities to learn, to grow, and to build a better galaxy." The crowd listened intently as Nora recounted their adventure, emphasizing the role of each member of her team and the new allies they had made. She spoke of the challenges ahead, but reinforced the hope that their actions had kindled. "As we move forward," Nora concluded, "let us carry the lessons of this semester in our hearts. Let us be brave, let us be wise, and above all, let us be kind. For in every one of us flows the potential to change not just our own destiny, but the destiny of the entire galaxy." The auditorium erupted in applause, a resounding affirmation of the journey shared and the future they were forging together. After the ceremony, students and faculty mingled, exchanging stories and hopes for the future. Many approached Nora, thanking her for her courage and leadership. Later, as the sun set over the academy, casting long shadows and bathing the campus in a soft golden light, Nora met with her friends one last time at their favorite spot in the memory gardens. "We started something incredible," Threx said, looking around at the group. "Thanks to Nora, we're not just students. We're pioneers of a new era." Mivix nodded, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "And whatever comes next, we'll face it together. After all, we're a pretty good team." As they shared a final group embrace, Nora felt a profound sense of gratitude and purpose. The adventure might have ended, but her role in shaping the future was just beginning. As the stars twinkled to life above them, Nora knew this was not an end, but a new beginning, a dawn of endless possibilities.